Hello, ladies and gents, and welcome to the debut episode. And now for something different. Those of you that join us week to week on Fans of Power, we talk about Masters of the Universe. We like other things too, and that's why we're here. This week, we are going to break down, which Newt here has finally watched this for the first time. It was nice to revisit this again. The 1993 film Falling Down, starring Michael Douglas, directed by Joel Schumacher, which I put this film high in his filmography. We
Definitely.
definitely can't let him get away with what he did to Batman, but he apologized for it, so I guess you have to give him a pass, right? But
He's one of the few directors that has genuinely apologized. Like I feel like anybody else that may address it doesn't come off as sincerely apologizing for their bullshit. Like he seems very sincere when he apologized for Batman and Robin. Like he doesn't say like, yes, I was responsible, I was there. That's why I will always hold him in high regard. Like I have a nostalgia feeling for Batman Forever. I always will because of the excitement of the summer that it came out with the soundtrack and everything. But I think he's probably the one director. I mean, most like Sam Raimi won't apologize for the Spider-Man films, and no one won't apologize for doing shitty Batman films either. Of course, no one would demand an apology from him. But this I would say easily is by far his best film though. Like even above like Lost Boys. Because I always go to think Batman, Lost Boys, Falling
you don't
Down.
think about Phone
Those
Booth?
are my
You
go-tos.
don't think about Phone Booth?
I liked Phone. I saw it in theaters when
I
it
did
came
too.
out, but I haven't seen it since, and I liked it.
Yeah,
But
it was. I haven't watched it in years. I kind of wonder if it would still hold up because Colin Farrell is really hit and miss.
I think he's one of the most overrated. He's like one of those Hollywood gets fixated on somebody, and you can't explain it, but they just will. Plus, if you were going to remake something, you fucking cast Colin Farrell. He's got a shitload of remakes from fucking SWAT, Miami Vice, Total
Fright
Recall,
Night.
Fright Night. They're all remakes.
Shit, yeah, I didn't even realize that. You're right.
It's just like
I
Fright
didn't
Night
even realize
was
that.
good, but I'm like, you go from this to him. I'm just like, I'm pulling my hair out. I'm like, why does everyone think like when he was cast as Sonny Crockett in Miami Vice? Like, fuck. But then they showed it. They showed him in these behind the scenes shots of wearing white with pastel, like with like long hair and kind of like in a small ponytail. I'm like, all right, I'll go with that. And then they didn't go with that. They goes with like the porn star mustache. Like, man, this fucking sucks.
I still haven't watched Miami Vice. I don't think I ever will because just based off of what you said and what other people thought about it, it wouldn't be worth the time.
Oh, the reboot?
Yeah, it's which that should have been. I mean, we're talking about a tangent.
Well,
but I just feel like but you know what? We're under a structure here, people. We are not. Honestly, this is an excuse for us just to hang out and bullshit. So
we are not limited here.
We'll talk Falling Down, but maybe someday we can get Newt to watch some Miami Vice. And,
that's
because I got Nathan into watching it, quite a bit, and he appreciates and understands why I like it so much. So, other people may not give a fuck about it, but I think it'd be fun to sit down and talk one day some Miami Vice with both of you there at some point. God knows me and Nathan talked about doing, and I'm like, no one's gonna give a fuck. We just do a podcast on Miami Vice. It's hard to get people.
But now we can use this instead to kind of shoehorn episodes of Miami Vice in here. And I know, and we didn't really start off with proper intro. So hey, Nathan Kennedy, Tyler Baker, Rebecca Cox. To anyone new that finds this and they're like, well, fans of what's this, what's that? But yeah, we want to talk about other things that aren't Masters related, but keep it all together on the same channel. And I would hate to do the Kevin Smith thing, but it does feel appropriate here that this is sort of the spiritual successor to Beyond Retro and Capes and Commentaries, which is a show that Tyler and I and Joe periodically would appear on, that we did years ago, that Tyler and I always joke about, that nobody watched or cared about. But now we can kind of resurrect that and have hopefully a few more eyes on it this go around.
Well, but even with this, though, I feel like we're not locking ourselves down to, even though with Beyond Retro it wasn't super specific, but we were always talking movies and So I feel like we can just kind of talk about whatever the hell we
That's
want
true.
on this. We're not bound by any kind of. We must talk about popular culture. Like, honestly, if we just want to sit on here, hey, it's an evening with the three of us. There is no subject. We're just bullshitting. If you just want to enjoy people do bullshitting for an hour and a half because you like how we talk, what we have to say, or whatever, then you know what? It doesn't have to be. We're going to discuss, season 4 of Married with Children. There's a shitload of YouTube channels out there discussing the same stuff we're attempting to do. So all the more reason why we're not going to cuff ourselves to. It's got to be this, and we're going to compete with everybody else and their shitty takes on a really good movie. So, yeah.
I like how you're just like, yeah, that's.
I feel like I'm rambling off. I'm like,
well,
I can't wait to talk Cobra Kai with you guys.
Yeah, because we get the season 4 of that dropping in a little over a month. So yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun to discuss. But let's go ahead. We will transition into Falling Down, a movie that Tyler actually introduced me to. I want to say, was this in high school?
We were in high school.
Yeah,
we were in high school.
I think I just I was coming over to. Hey, we were gonna go and venture out.
We're gonna
go look for toys, and I showed up, and you just happened to be watching it, and I was like, "What's that?" And you're like, "Here, let me show you." You showed me some of the best scenes.
I showed you the gang, like the scene where he's approached by the gang members in the open
and I'm
field.
like,
that was my introduction to show Nathan. I'm like, you gotta watch this, dude. Like it explains itself.
Yeah, and then after that, I'm pretty sure if it wasn't that day, it was probably a couple weeks after the fact. It was probably Best Buy or Walmart, I imagine. Went in there, found the Snapper Case DVD. Hate those fucking things, but
I still got mine over there on the shelf.
But picked that up and I watched it, and this is a movie that it's honestly, it's really complex, but it's also simple. They simplify it down in a way. It's strange because it's got a lot going on, and it doesn't reveal the entirety of its plot to you just all at once. You see the story unfold, and we can just kind of start at the beginning. And one of my favorite parts about it is Michael Douglas's character is in traffic, and this is Los Angeles, early 90s, hottest day of the year. You can see it on camera, just how sweltering it is. And there's not any noise, and you're starting to see different things, and he's in his car, and it just ramps up. The noise level starts to rise. You see him noticing different things, like the fly that gradually gets on his nerves. You got the Garfield on the car next to him. You got the little girl in front of him. Switching between all that, the noise level gets higher and higher. He's getting hotter, and then he just kind of snaps for a second. And I think that scene right there kind of shows you what you're in for, that it's going to be, here's a slow build, things are gradually escalating, and they come to a head. But I thought that opening part where he's done sitting in traffic, he gets out, and he just walks away. I'm like, all right, what are we in for? And Rebecca, this was your first time watching this, so let's. What are you thinking as it's going on when he's walking out and you're like, well, where's this gonna go? And of course, the first place he ends up is the convenience store.
So this is something John's been trying to get me to watch for a while, and he tried to get me to watch it a while ago, but he couldn't find his DVD. I think he loaned it out somewhere. So we finally sat down and watched together, and I was watching it with him, and he's really into it, and he's like, in that first scene you're talking about, which is just giving me anxiety, that build up, and you can't take your eyes off the screen. He's like, there's a lot of foreshadowing in this scene. He's like, you see the little girl, you see the American flag, you see, I think you see graffiti of Jesus or something, and he's like, yeah, there's just a lot of foreshadowing in here. And I was like, okay, that's cool. And I'm just like, that just gives me so much anxiety, that scene.
Well,
oh, Jesus.
Well, I was gonna say, like, when watching it again, I was telling Emily, I was like, I feel like anyone that watches this that has severe anxiety that might trigger something for them with the way that because it's so heavy, just
Yeah,
immediately.
and I don't even suffer from like anxiety attacks or anything like that. It's just it's just a very well put together scene. That's just a brilliant, brilliant opening, that scene. And it sets it up. You couldn't have set that movie up better than that, you
Yeah,
know.
I totally agree. And Tyler and I quote this movie quite a bit. And sometimes it is, and we'll get into this a little bit later, some of the more offensive terms. But uh, I think, Tyler, you showed me this other scene when we first started hanging out, which is the convenience store scene where he walks in.
Yeah.
He, uh, which I guess I understand why the clerk didn't do it, but at the same time, I'm like, you could have saved yourself so much trouble here at the beginning, where the Asian man running the counter, Michael Douglas hands him a dollar, like, "Hey, can I have change?" No change, because he wants to make a phone call. So he's like, "You got to buy something." He walks over to the cooler, and it's just the noise there too. You hear the run, 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 run. He's standing there. He's taking in the
Yeah.
cool air. He grabs a Coke, and it's almost like he wants to make out with it a little bit while the
Mhm.
clerk is staring him down. And when he comes to the counter, 85 cent. He's like, "What?" And then that's when we hit the first part of, like, say, the social commentary that we get a lot of in this film, of just how people are, how people react to things, because his initial reaction is just anger, and he goes back to, like, we're taking prices back to 1950s, and he starts just busting up the store. And it's it's weird because, as Tyler knows and has seen, like, I'm a pretty relatively calm person, but if things really start annoying me and pile up and everything, like, I have explosive anger, whether it's like hitting something or whatever.
Does he ever?
So I could relate a little bit to what was going on in this scene of just not getting change, having to buy something. And he even says, he's like, "Well, I won't even have enough money for the phone call." And the dude obviously doesn't care. So it's just this first level of what's more to come, of that gradual building that we were talking about, with just a wide variety of things. And Tyler, I'll pass it off to you, where we can kind of talk a little more about the convenience store scene. If there's anything about it now that, watching it recently as opposed to back then, do you look at some of these scenes, in particular this one, a little bit differently than you used to, given how society for us now in 2021 has kind of changed?
I mean, when I watched it back then, and even when I watch it now, because I remember when I heard about it, I really thought it was. And I was going to ask you guys this too. Like, my perception of the film when it came out, and when my parents rented it, it was one of those films I was not allowed to come downstairs and be around while the movie was playing. It was one of those few movies I was not allowed to make sure I got to stay upstairs. You can't go downstairs when we're watching this movie. And I just remember thinking it was this kind of vigilante movie almost, like, because all the clips I could remember seeing was Michael Douglas with the gun, destroying the phone booth, and hearing things about the convenience store, but not knowing, that he's just a real angry person. And I mean, really, when I watched it initially, it comes off as a film that the movie is telling you is kind of doing what a lot of people would like to do. I didn't look at it as a social commentary. I looked at it as, like, people think, charging 85 cents for a soda is too much. I'm fed up
Right.
with expensive prices in convenience stores, which that's like that all the time. Going to a fast food chain, wanting breakfast and you miss it, or wanting something that's in the picture. Like, it's all about venting. And I
Yeah.
wish I could do that. I wish I could put people in their place and not think about the ramifications for it. That's how I viewed the movie. I didn't see it as anything that was attacking,
Well,
orientation or ethnicity or
well,
anything like that. It was just strictly living out your fantasies of standing up against society. But even the trailer says, or the poster, it's a man at war with with the every or a man at war with the everyday world. I think it was the tagline for the film. I think.
Well, was there
Or with
was
society.
there the part though, the line of dialogue that he delivers when the clerk says something and he's like, "There's no." Was it? Does he say there's a V there or something like that? There's like a.
Oh yeah, when he's talking about when he's saying 85
Mm.
cent, 85 cent, and he is, and the character itself looks like a man of the 1950s with the crew cut, the white shirt and
Yeah.
tie, the pointing glasses. He's clearly, and I think they did it on purpose, a man out
Yeah,
of time.
I read
He
that.
is, yeah,
Getting ready for that they
and
wanted him to
and
look
it
a little
shows.
timeless and out of place.
Yeah, and he clearly he looks like someone who could exist in that day, but clearly someone who looked of a different time as well. And it's like he's doing it out of frustration, and obviously, I mean, unfortunately, there's still racism going on in this, and well, in the whole world for that matter. But I felt that his criticizing the way he's saying 85 is out of frustration. You're not doing what I need you to do, so I'm going to give you shit for it. Which you see people do that a lot. When you don't get what you want, you go after the person that's denying you your goal. And his goal is to get change for a phone call. So he decides to make fun of him for the way he
Yeah.
talks. And you just tell he's just fed up with paying high prices on stuff. And I think when people watch that scene, they could relate to. Of course, you look back, 85 cents. Some places still charge 50 cents for a can of Coke. Other places do
Yeah.
not. But I think it's just a way of venting, but it's certainly not the way. It's easy to picture Nathan doing something like that.
Yeah, but I don't think I
Yeah.
don't think I would. It wouldn't be in my nature. I wouldn't think to just attack someone on how they talk.
Not to attack someone because of ethnicity.
No.
No, I'm talking about Nathan just destroying
Yeah.
stuff. That's what I'm referring. I apologize for that
But
because
the same time too, when he does kind of attack him for his ethnicity, it's kind of brought back around him again when he starts busting up the store more, and he's like, "Take the money, take the money." He's like, "What? You think I'm a thief?" So it kind of comes back on him. So that it was a good like back and forth in terms of
Yeah.
them immediately
Yeah.
thinking this and just. Rebecca, what were you thinking when this was going on? Was your brain starting to kind of turn into when he delivers that line with that? Where are you looking at it through the how? Because I feel like if people watched it now, especially those that would be sensitive to certain things like that they would immediately be turned off by it without really starting to kind of think about what they were trying to do with the scene, like you
Well,
explained.
I think what Tyler's saying does make sense because, like, people mock me at work for my tiny voice. They'll be like, they'll mimic it. They'll be like, oh, man, or if my southern accent slips out, they'll be like, oh, you got a twang,
Yeah.
I don't know. But what I like best about that scene is like what Tyler was saying, and just that venting. It's so fucking satisfying, this movie. If you could say anything else, it's so fucking satisfying. Because I think we all just have those days where we're just like, fuck, I want to tear this place apart.
That
Yeah.
would be.
That's what I
That's
do.
how the whole movie plays out for the most
Mhm.
part. I really feel like the movie is just, the man is just snap. He's not obviously he's a man with anger problems, as
Yeah.
that's established throughout the film, but it's hard to not sympathize with his actions because of the situation he's dealing with. You kind of feel like
Yeah.
the Korean grocer has every right to charge whatever he wants. But as a consumer, all you want is change, and of course we all know what that's like. When you want to go someplace, you need change for something. Certain businesses will stick it to you. Like, no, you got to buy something. I'm not giving you change. Like, I don't.
Yeah,
We're
just
not
dealing
off
with
of
rotten people in the world and just, just wanting a break
just
and not being able to
making things difficult when they don't need to be. And
Mhm.
this whole movie is that it's people just being assholes. And it's just
Mhm.
like this Wizard of Oz story of just trying to get home and dealing with random assholes all over the place. And and you can obviously his anger is a problem, but he himself is not
Yeah.
a bad guy. Like, he's not out to hurt anybody. He tries to avoid confrontation. You know, obviously, and we'll get into it, but like when he goes into the Nazi surplus store, he doesn't care for how the Nazi owner acts.
And that was one of
he's
the best
quite
lines.
put off by that. You know, that whole sequence when we get to that, but you know, just everything, like from the whammy burger to the gang situation, he's just not a bad guy, but still just getting to cut loose. And I mean, obviously the police are after him. It's not like he gets away with it and scot free, but it's still, like Rebecca said, it is satisfying to see people put in their place. You know, obviously I would never go about destroying property to say you're the thief,
but that's why it's satisfying. We have control, you know. We have.
But that's what makes the magic of movies. You know, it is fun. That's why I can't stand realistic films. It is so much more fun to watch a regular guy deal with things we can all relate to or have dealt with in our own lives, and see him like, no, fuck that. I have a problem with it, and this is why, and this is how I'm going to deal with it. That is so much more fun than to watch Colin Farrell in a remake of Falling Down, addressing it in the most woke fashion.
Yeah, well,
I mean, like, who's going to give a shit about that?
This is a movie that I think they wouldn't make today at all. Or if they did, it would be severely tweaked. But after...
Yeah. Me and John talked about that.
His social commentary.
Yeah, me and John talked about that. Like, God, can you imagine if this was made now? You'd have so many side plots. You know, this had the perfect amount of side plot and storytelling and side characters, where now it would be like, oh, well, now he has a teenage son, and we're going to involve in his issues with his girlfriend and this and that, and it's just like, it would not be the same.
Well,
it missed the point of the story. Yeah. You know, it's you get like that's not the whole, you know, with everything else. They gotta make it a melting pot of the story characters. Like it's about how this guy addresses the issue that is facing him in the moment. You know, it's not like he ever had an issue with it before. It's like, okay, I'm just fed up. I want to go home, and now I'm going to address this issue. I'm going to address this issue, and it just gradually gets more violent as it progresses.
Well, let's talk about the side plot that Rebecca had mentioned, that it's going to gradually intertwine with what's going on with the main plot line, and that would be Sergeant Prendergast. Did I pronounce that right?
I think so.
I always thought it was Pendergast, but they say the name so fast in the film. Pendergast. Yeah,
but it's played by Robert Duvall. It's his last day on the job. Everybody's giving him shit, and you kind of find out along the way that while it is his last day of work, he also had a daughter who had passed away of the sudden infant death syndrome, and his wife keeps calling him, and she's clearly going through a ton of shit. Like she's packing up the house, but that death has clearly affected her in a massive, huge way. But let's start to kind of talk about his end of the thing, because he does come into focus a little more once he starts piecing together what's going on as Michael Douglas is going through and just having a shit day. Which isn't his fault. That's kind of the weird thing, is it's just all circumstantial. He's trying to get away from it, but everyone just keeps pushing the right buttons, and it sends him further. But let's talk about Robert Duvall. Obviously, I feel like we're all in agreement that, like, great character, great little side thing going there. Anybody have any issues with his character in this film at all?
No, he was I'm watching him, like, he's a great person. He's almost like him and Michael Douglas, they're both falling down. Their lives are falling apart, you know, but he's handling it in the right way, whereas Michael Douglas is snapped, if that makes sense. But
there is a great yin and yang there of addressing people don't respect you, you know, because everybody in that police department, other than his former partner, just loves to give the guy shit. Like, even for his last days, like, there's nobody in this police department respects him for anything. That his time,
except for the lady
reputation. Yeah, which I forget what her name was from Total Recall. Yeah, very attractive.
Well,
woman.
Even
for not knowing
even
her
the
name.
Captain, it's just like you never cuss. I don't trust anybody.
That line has always stuck in my head ever since I first saw it, when he says, "You don't cuss." I don't trust a man who don't cuss. And I don't know why that always stuck out to me, but I always thought that was such an asshole line to
But
say.
I feel like it's
Yeah.
kind of true. I feel like
just-
it's kind of true because I feel like those people that don't cuss for whatever reason are like it just feels to me like they're hiding more than they let on.
Hiding
Like they're
something?
totally
Yeah.
different people, but they have to put on this front. You know that would I just I don't know. I'm with them on that. I feel like you can't trust anybody that at least doesn't say fuck every now
But
and again.
it was great. I know I'm jumping ahead, but to see him kind of, Robert Duvall's character get that little bit of release at the end, like punching that
Yeah.
dude and cussing at that guy, is like, I feel like dealing with Michael Douglas's character is like gave him a healthy dose of, yeah, I can let things out a little
Yeah.
bit more. You know, telling his wife to shut up. It's like you see him kind of taking control of things.
which is messed up because when you finally do snap, the immediate response is, "Well, God, you can calm down. What's your problem?" Like,
Yeah.
I can relate to that so much because when
Yep,
you're
me
patient
too.
with somebody and you finally like as a human being, you have to stop this, and their immediate response is, "You can calm down. What the hell is your problem?" Like, and
Yeah.
people in society are like that. When
Mhm.
you're done being polite, they're immediate, and I feel like that too is a reaction of like, "Oh, you're calling me out. I was wrong, so I'm going to go after you." It's immediately it's that defense mechanism of you got caught, you're embarrassed now, so now put the blame on the other person. You know,
Yeah.
shows us what kind of fucking human beings we
Yeah,
are.
well, and I think this movie sort of encapsulates that whole thing, even though it's almost 30 years ago. In terms of how people are and how they act, not much has really changed at all.
Oh God,
No.
yeah.
Um, I'll train. I'll
For
train.
verbatim, you run into homeless people that like have those lines for you.
Yeah.
You know, that was a great scene.
And well, all right, well, that one's a little bit further ahead, but let's go ahead and
Yeah.
talk about that now. So at one point, he's Michael Douglas is
How the fuck are you going through my park? I live here.
he's walking through this homeless community, and this guy just starts showing up, berating him. Is like, oh hey,
That guy is like everything wrong with.
Almost looks like they
this dude.
cast him off the street. Like that guy's
They
not
probably-
acting.
I know.
They probably, but
God.
everything about it's so fucking funny because he's like, "Hey man, give me some money. I haven't eaten in 3 days," while he's
And
eating.
he's holding a sandwich.
It's like, well, I've had this.
Well, besides
It's like,
this,
oh fuck it. Just get
and every time Michael Douglas has like, well, if you were driving, then show me your driver's
Yeah.
license. It's like, oh well, I don't have it. Story after story after story is just
I
full
mean,
of
he
shit.
just like obviously he has dealt with this kind of situation lots of times and is aware that, you know what, I know what you're doing. And you know, and I still see people like in our area, I've dealt with it and I've seen it in cities too, and it's unfortunate that people in those situations
Yeah.
have got to deal with con artists and scammers trying to take advantage of people's sympathies. So when you see that guy looking like a complete slob, probably spitting all over the place when he's talking, it just looks, he comes off as an asshole immediately with his story. So you have no sympathy for the guy whatsoever. And for him to lose his temper, and Michael is as calm as he possibly can be. One of the few times in the film where you feel like Michael doesn't do anything really rash, but you think he will. But it's good that he doesn't, like embarrassing him with an empty briefcase.
It had
so much more
it
satisfying
had
than him
food
beating
in
the
it.
fuck out of him.
That's
had
the
food in
thing
it.
is, it had food in it. It had what
It
he
had
was
food in it.
asking
He
for,
didn't
and then
care.
you find out that's not what he wanted.
He just
Yeah.
threw
And so it's
Just
like
thinking
it's
of
full of
briefcases,
shit, dude.
I could sell and eat for a month, and like knowing full well, here you go.
yeah.
And just thinking he's gonna find something, that's one of the most fun scenes to watch. Just look it up on YouTube and just watch that
Yeah.
scene
Yeah, it's
because
great.
it's so entertaining, and the way it's shot and the camera angle of just following them through the underpass. It doesn't stop, and
And just
you
how
just
his
think Michael's
bullshit escalates, like as he's like tearing it down, and then finally it comes down to like, well, you have two things, I have nothing. How is that fair? He's like, okay, you can have my briefcase, and it has food, which is what he was asking for in the first place, and he doesn't want it. You're just like, God, there are so many people like this in the world.
And it's sad too, that whole sequence when the scene is being set up before the con artist shows up, and you're seeing the people who are sitting in homeless situations. They're in a public park, and obviously feel like it's more of a, a more unfortunate part of town. Most of it's pretty. I mean, because this was shot during the riots of the night, during the around the Rodney King riots. So everything was pretty authentic.
Yeah, that actually.
But it adds texture. That see that whole setup of the environment that Michael just stops to kind of admire children having fun in the park, having the serenity of like, I wish I could do that with my child, and it's disrupted by this douchebag eating and saying, I drove down from Santa Barbara and my friend's not there, and it's like,
it's just.
You think Joe's?
I bet he has. I was actually gonna bring that up. When I watched that scene, I'm like, yeah, it seems like Joe. And I would be the one. I would be the Michael Douglas character walking through. He's like, oh, come on, man. I'm like, all right, well, here you go. And he gets just pissed off and throws the apple at me, and then I just kick it down the street a little bit further.
Yeah.
While that scene is entertaining, I think the scene before it way more entertaining to me. So after he's left the convenience store, has the Coke, he's just kind of out in the middle of nowhere, but he's sitting on like just
concrete.
Yeah,
stoop.
just a stoop, just the last remains of probably a house, I would assume, that's been long since tore down. But he's sitting there trying to have a good time, or like calm down, cool off, and of course here comes some Mexican gang members that are just like, hey, you know what that is? You know what you're sitting on? And he's like, oh, I'm just hanging out. And they're like, what do you think that is? And he's like, looks like graffiti.
Oh, yeah, he's like, I didn't see a sign, and they're like, what do you think that is? Like, graffiti?
It's not fucking graffiti, that's a sign. This means no trespassing. This means fucking you. Yeah, it says all that. Yeah. You wrote it fucking name if I could fucking understand it. It was just it's you can't help but laugh when he mocks them for being assholes.
Yeah.
God,
it's what you want to happen to those people.
Just, it's so messed up. Is that clearly that area is just desolate and barren, and they just say, "Hey, look, there's a guy walking by himself. Let's mug him." Like, that's what they're doing. It's not about public property. It's not about. It's our territory. Even when he thinks it's a gangland thing, it's like, no, they're just being assholes, and you just feel like, oh my god, how's this gonna go? And it's even trying so hard, like, guys, I've had a really, really rare morning, and when it explodes, it's like, oh my god, like you enjoy it so much for him standing up and defending himself, and they scatter
immediately.
God. Like, you just how
well, because I mean, if you got hit in the face with half a baseball bat, he would probably run away too, right?
But even so, like, they pull a knife on him. A knife to me is a little bit more deadlier than a baseball bat, but they are quickly, just scared that the guy just came right at him and didn't back down.
But
they could have.
It's also kind of just that you gotta pretend to be tough kind of thing. So like, yeah, you got the knife and you seem like you had the advantage, and like, I'm the tough guy, and that's when he's like, all right, you want my briefcase? I'll give him my briefcase, and that's when he's got the bat hidden behind there, whacks the dude in the face. And then the other guy doesn't. He kind of like hits him like in the shoulder, right?
He's like, wait, no, wait. He's like, damn, and he just clocks.
Yeah, rolls down the stairs.
In the face, runs off, and then the other guy goes down the hill. And what the best line is like, I'm going home. Clear path, you motherfucker.
I'm going home. What?
God, I wish I could get that on a T-shirt.
I mean, you probably.
I'm going home. Clear path, you motherfucker.
You probably could, where it's just a shot of him, like with the baseball bat, like this before he throws it.
Yeah. Joe, put that on a T-shirt for me. Clear path, you motherfucker, or something like that.
Would you actually wear that in public if it had motherfucker written on it?
Oh God, I can only wear that in Myrtle Beach. I feel like Myrtle Beach was like one of those places where you could wear shirts with obscenities on it, and it was okay. At least growing up as a kid, because you'd see shirts that were a little bit more risque. As a kid.
What was that? What was that fucking? What was that brand? It was like that. What was it? The Big Johnson or whatever.
Oh, the Big Johns. Yeah, where it's always like a little nerdy guy with these big busty women and their nipples barely, almost sticking out. And
I remember
you'd always see more sexually charged shirts in Myrtle Beach. That's what always made me feel like That's the one place I knew of that you could wear shirts that were, you know, more mature out in public, and it was like not. That was my perception.
That's,
of it,
I mean, that's,
you know?
I guess I could see that in a way, but fucking Myrtle Beach.
I'm just going by from my childhood perspective because you'd always see. I remember there was a shirt with a frog falling down this, you know, two breasts, like he was like gagging to death between two giant breasts. It was more about selling breasts on a t-shirt. You know, it was like the Big Johnson shirt.
Yeah, I was about to say this was kind of in the.
Yeah, we had the graffiti on that billboard with the breasts and the person like stuck in saying help. So.
Oh yeah.
It's a good tie back to that.
But that's just what I thought of, you know, as a kid, because that was the only place I would see stuff that was not. You're like, oh wow, that's kind of adult, you know, because in my mind, anything to do with the female anatomy was adult, or any kind of language from ass or damn was adult.
I never saw anybody wearing them though. I always just saw them in stores. I never saw anybody wearing those shirts.
I would see people wearing stuff like that. I mean, obviously, yes, I probably would not feel comfortable wearing a shirt that says "motherfucker" on it.
I know you wouldn't.
Yeah, I maybe around here on the podcast is one thing, but you know, there's some stuff. You know what? I don't need to go out there, and people in the grocery store, my local Kroger or Walmart, you know, class probably wouldn't care.
But then you would run into those holier than thou people that'd be like, "What are you doing? This is offensive to me." And then it could be like your own falling down moment, right?
Yeah. So look, guys, I've had a really rare day, man. If you just take a step back, I'll take my problems elsewhere. And, you know, we demand a donation. You know, or we're gonna, you know, and they're recording me with noise. It's going on fucking social media.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I think that's another reason.
That's if this was done today, Michael Douglas' character would constantly be uploaded on social media for this incident, that incident, another incident.
Yeah, he would go viral.
He would go viral, and then it would date the fucking film because they would, you know, use whatever the coolest form of social media is, and then 10 years from now, no one's going to give a fuck about TikTok or something like that.
I don't know.
That's why I hate the use of technology in movies.
I mean,
it dates it so much.
Yeah,
I totally agree with that. Me and John talk about that all the time. How keep all your electronics to the bare minimum and make it the plainest, like hard to tell what date it's from, so that you're not dating your movie.
Because all the best movies that popular culture celebrates are not tech based in terms of like using social media. Where like you don't, when you think Ghostbusters, Big Trouble in Little China, The Thing, any good John Carpenter movie, I'll just put it that way, you don't look at it as a dated film because of the technology or making all these social media references and stuff like that.
Yeah, a worse example of this was for the first time me and John were watching Free Guy. I was like, this is going to be so dated. Because it has actual, like, gamers in it.
Yeah.
People who are on Twitch and everything. I'm like, it's going to be so dated in, like, 10 years.
Movies that are products of the time. Like, I feel like the 80s and 90s get away with movies that are based on the times and not of, well, unfortunately right now, our identity is social media. Yeah. Which, oh my God. There is no identity with social media. That's why I will always live in the past with movies and television shows. They don't live by what's popular at the moment. This is just how times were back then. You know, you don't feel like it's, you know, hell, people even referencing MySpace, I feel like dates the film drastically.
Yeah, because I mean, there would be people that will watch it and be like, what's a MySpace? But it would be the people saying, oh, well, you had to be there kind of thing.
And then we laugh and roll our eyes like MySpace, like God, even though it was real popular for a couple of years.
Yeah, it needs to come back. Or how about we just get rid of all that shit altogether? Let's just get rid of all of it.
I'm fine with that. Leave YouTube because YouTube. I don't watch YouTube for people's bullshit unless it's like recording a fight in Walmart. Those are fun to watch.
I've never watched a Walmart fight on YouTube.
Oh my God!
Is it like a specific channel that's just a hub for all of these?
No, I don't know. I just
look up Walmart fights. There's Walmart fights in just various stores, and it's different people.
Yeah, you'll have like a 200-pound, like a 300-pound woman with like skinny little guy like duking it out.
Oh, over what?
Okay, ramming carts into each other.
In the shampoo aisle, and like the 5-year-old boy that's with them is like hitting the other woman with
Oh,
a shampoo
God.
bottle and telling people like, "Don't tell me what to do." And people are like, they don't get involved. I mean, you just have to look it up, and
Oh
watch it.
God.
It makes me so
It's
sad
quite
when I see.
entertaining.
It makes me so sad when I see kids like involved in fights. But God, they are funny.
God.
Walmart just will never shake that reputation of being a place like the cesspool of
but dude,
society, which is unfortunate because I shop at Walmart.
but there's a huge difference going into Target and then going into Walmart. A huge difference. And I'm like, so the prices, just that the little bit of that price increase is enough to keep you away from Target. All right, sure.
But you still find screaming kids.
Well,
in
I
both
mean,
locations.
that's
Like,
Yes.
they're not. They don't.
That's gonna be
Yeah.
anywhere. That's gonna be at the
Yeah.
theater. When I worked at the theater, I can't tell you how many times I had moms carrying crying kids out, or worse, not carrying them out and just letting them scream in the theater.
Oh
You know.
God, I've had to deal with
Hey,
that.
you want to talk about the?
Well, we would ask them to leave. We'd be like, you can't. I know some theaters don't do that. You know, they're like, oh no, we'll let them scream. It's like, no, we'll kick you out if you're disrupting other guests.
But that's why this movie, I think why people when they watch it, even if it's for the first time, really gravitate to it, and most of it resonates with them because, as Tyler alluded to, it would be those situations where you're in a movie theater and someone's being a prick, and you don't do anything about it, and you just sit there and you stew and you're annoyed, and you know.
And you're watching the employees be dumb or something, or being assholes or
Yeah.
whatever. It's just.
But even then, it's like you can, which we have addressed it, and they want to fight you about it. They're embarrassed because you called them out for their bullshit, and then they want to antagonize you because you called them out for it. And it's unfortunate, you know. And not everybody does it. Some people just say, "I'm sorry." Other people want to look at you like, the nerve of you. You know, I'm talking with my friend because we're experts on this movie that we're
You
watching.
want to talk about that real quick?
You know,
where you went and saw the director's cut of Rocky IV last week, and
I want to hear this.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I'll just say that. But there were two dumpy bastards at the end of the aisle who just, I guess one of them thought he was an expert on Rocky IV. I really wanted to say, sir, could you repeat that fun fact? I couldn't fucking hear everything you're saying because you won't, over the movie that I'm trying to watch. And I can't, I'm like, in the last several years, I've had to get up and tell someone to please stop talking for screenings of classic films to new films. I get tired of picking that moment to get up, and I've gotten up and walked over to people and told them to stop talking. And you don't, and then it takes you a while to calm down, and you can't focus on the film. And I didn't do it this time because I'm like, it's the first time I've been to the movie theater since the pandemic. I just was like, it was enough to irritate me, but not so much where I'm like, I'm gonna get up and tell these fuckers, they're like, shut the fuck up, man. Do your own commentary at home. But everybody's perceptions, they think they have that right to sit in the theater and think no one else can fucking hear them.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, it did make me feel like, I don't know if I'll be able to make it to go see Batman when it comes out, the new Batman film, because of like, you get so excited to see something, and there's other people in there who want to enjoy it just like you, but you don't want to be that person that makes a scene in the theater because someone wouldn't shut up.
Yeah.
And I'm tired of doing it. I had to do it at The Karate Kid. I had to do it at Batman Returns. I had to do it in Nathan Everett infamous Meg story, the shitty shark movie, and the white trash people. Mad Max, Fury Road. I mean, it's just a long list of telling people, please stop talking.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I just quit going. That's why I'm glad the release window between the theatrical and digital has gotten way smaller. It's like a month now. A month later, you can pay a premium and rent it, or just outright buy it. And I'm like, it's so much better.
I hate it. The theater is part of my life. I don't like being denied to see movies I really want to see with great sound where I get goosebumps because the music kicks in during a big moment, or the scene is like, oh my God, like that I have to settle to watch it at home and stream it because I can't get these self-entitled motherfuckers to sit quietly for an hour and a half to 2 hours of their life and talk about it after the movie. Like, it's just...
Yeah.
I get fed up with so much, and I'd love nothing more than just, I mean, embarrass him. But I'm like, I don't want to go through the whole, like, not that I would have, but I just think about that time me and Nathan got into it with that white trash family and then wanted to fight in the park. I'm like, do I really want to go through that again?
It'd be hilarious at seeing somebody trying to like, oh, you want to fight, and then seeing you, and they're like, oh shit, never mind.
Well, King Kong, he didn't want to fight, but I guess his white trash daughter and white trash wife were like screaming, doing the whole "oh no, you didn't" thing from their van.
I'm just sitting in the car.
It's sitting there just
giving me flashbacks to me telling a lady when I was a manager, me telling a lady to turn her phone off. And she wanted to come out and like argue with me, and I was like, "You can get the fuck out of the theater."
See, that's what it started over.
I'm like, I can get the fucking mall security guard in here if you want to keep acting like this, because I'm not gonna sit here and deal with that,
Over phones too.
Over a phone. I'm like, you're in the front row
notion.
with your phone on. Everybody can see your fucking light. Turn it off.
Yeah, but everybody's entitled. That's why I take.
That's why Michael Douglas is telling people, no, fuck you, and this is how it is. Like, if we can, obviously we, even acting on it physically, yes, we're going to get arrested for it. And honestly, I don't need to lose my job or have something on my record because some fucker decided he just felt the need to talk way too loud and play with his flashlight during a movie.
Do you think has that gotten worse over time, or has that always been a problem at the theater?
No. I feel like in the last 5 to 6 years, it's gotten progressively worse. Me and Nathan have been going to movies since high school.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen tentpole films. Even back in the 90s when my dad was taking me and my brother to the movies Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we did not have issues of people talking during the big blockbuster hits to movies like The Relic and 13th Ward. People shut the fuck up,
I remember watching Lord of the Rings. Yeah, I remember watching Lord of the Rings. Everybody's fucking quiet in the movie theater. So I'm glad that's not just me that thought that, because I'm like, I feel like it's gotten worse.
Yeah, and it's people of all ages. It's not just young people. It's people who are older than us.
Yeah.
Who just can't seem to sit still and not tell someone.
I blame social media for that. People cannot sit down and concentrate on one thing for too long. I have to check my phone. I have to say something. I can't. People aren't watching movies as much as they're watching short YouTube videos now, so it's like I can only focus on that for 5 minutes tops, and then I gotta go watch something else. So sitting through a whole 2-hour, 3-hour movie is like, I gotta say something. I gotta check my phone.
Oh my god! I know someone had to like my latest picture on Instagram, but I need to respond to it.
What's hilarious though is the attention span has gone down, but it seems like every movie that comes out is easily over 2 hours these days. So I'm like, well, what's the?
Yeah.
Oh, man. I don't understand that too, and it's a shame because it's not like they're like Heat quality where Heat is almost 3 hours long, but it's a masterpiece. Fucking Avengers is almost 3 hours long, and people are dying left and right over and over.
It's
and
just
over
bloated.
And over again.
Bring back the 90-minute movie, and while Falling Down isn't 90 minutes, it still clocks in under 2 hours.
But it's a testament to it's telling good cohesive stories with characters that are fleshed out, and from 90 minutes to under 2 hours. It's a thing. Why people feel like they need to have a 3-hour film.
Yeah.
And it's almost become the norm now. 90-minute films, unless it's for children.
Also, the last James Bond movie was almost 3 hours. And I was like, Jesus Christ.
God, no thanks.
Which
I didn't watch it. I just had to work late because they started at 8 o'clock.
Yeah. I think it took too long for Skyfall to come out. I just lost interest in the latest Bond films. Like, I don't give a shit anymore. My dad watched them, but I'm like, it took too damn long. And
they're fine, but I think they kind of lack the charm and charisma that's there that kind of made the previous James Bond movies what made them special to begin with. Like, the villains all seem the same now, and
very generic. They don't have a distinctive look and feel.
They're just interchangeable.
Most Bond villains should.
Yeah.
Well, which I feel like that's how most movies are, which is why I'm so down on superhero films right now. They don't set themselves apart. They're too busy being products. as opposed to
Yeah.
leaving an impact on your audience that you will never forget the summer that I saw this particular superhero film, whether it's Marvel, DC, Image, Vertigo, whatever the case may be. Like
Yeah, no,
I
they're
wish
just
it
coming
could,
out and going under the radar because there's so many. And
and
there's no passion put
no
into
one's gonna
them.
give a
But
fuck. No one's gonna look back and say, "I remember where I was when I saw Shang-Chi, or where I was when I saw Black Widow."
Yeah.
Like the summer Black Widow came out, I'll never
oh
forget.
God,
Like,
exactly.
it's just not gonna happen.
Whereas
and
you
it's
remember
unfortunate.
seeing the original Superman movie, for the first time.
Yeah.
You remember those credits, and it sticks with you forever.
Yeah, fresh new ideas. I don't know. Everything's kind of changed. I maybe that's just as we're getting older. I don't know.
We don't have much of a choice but to live in the past. It's not an issue of, I was just telling somebody at work, it ain't about that. I think, people don't have good ideas. Like, I'm just so used to quality movies. I've been exposed to so many good movies. I'm like Ghostbusters, Jaws, Predator, the Rambo films, the Rocky films, John Carpenter greats. Back when Steven Spielberg in the 80s, when he was making quality films, boom, 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 boom. End of the night, boom, 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 boom. Even good, dramas like Platoon, Apocalypse Now. It's like, I'm sorry, these movies suck today because I expect quality. I'm not just going to settle because this is what people say is popular. We don't have superstars anymore. We don't have people don't go see the latest Jennifer Lawrence film. They don't go see the latest Bradley Cooper.
They go see
Ryan Gosling.
they go see the Dwayne Johnson movies, man. He's a movie star.
Yeah, for families to go to. That's what churches go see. For their Sunday afternoon gatherings, they go see the latest Dwayne Johnson film. If the guy would come out and make a serious film where he's not winking at the camera, doing some sort of, I want you to know I'm having fun for the kids here, people. Then maybe, things would be different for him. But I feel like he makes a shitload of money. So you know what? If he enjoys
he's doing
not
something
worried
right.
about.
Yeah.
I also feel like his movies are not leaving a drastic impact on the culture.
Yeah.
They're just
Exactly.
they come and
Well,
go.
Exactly.
They come and go.
It's a rock movie.
Yeah.
It's a Dwayne Johnson movie. That's what it's known as. It's not.
And they don't have identities,
Yeah.
though.
I
Exactly.
feel like the movies today, if you really want to find something good that sticks with you well after you've watched it, you have to dig for it now. It's gonna be like the small independent
I mean,
stuff.
John Wick is probably the one current film that I'm like, oh my god, like it hit a chord with me. I relished it, and the sequel comes out, loved that.
Me and John saw a great one. We saw Spine of Night, which is one I'd love to do on this channel if you guys wanted to watch it.
I have no idea what that even is.
I never heard of it.
It's inspired by the Ralph Bakshi rotoscoped animation. It was really fantastic story in that one.
I think I saw something mentioned of that, which I thought, okay, that sounds kind of interesting.
But see, that's what I'm saying. You have to dig for these things now.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because they don't push. I mean, hell, anything that you see advertised in movie theaters, I'm like, well, don't give a fuck about that. Oh, look, another exorcism movie. Wow, I haven't seen one of those.
Yeah, they need to get away. They need to get away from the demon horror ghost movies.
Another child's possessed comes flying at the camera. Oh man, scary shit, man. I'm taking my date to go see that.
Yeah, when you can see the jump scares coming, it's not scary anymore.
It's the same stuff. Running at the camera. Like, oh god, just stop it.
God, they think having a little kid screaming is scary. I'm like, nothing is scary about that. It's fucking annoying.
Outside of Linda Blair's performance in the original Exorcist, if you're watching these current, exorcism movies or ghost movies with little kids making faces at the camera, that scares you. You're a pussy.
Yeah, that's not good.
I mean, you are textbook bona fide the purest form pussy. I mean, it reeks. You reek on it.
Let's transition back to falling down.
Not in the way that you're.
Yeah,
but you're like, no, you stink, man. You suck.
Well,
I gotta go to the bathroom here in a moment.
All right.
I'm just letting you know.
Well, let's move back to falling down, and I guess transition to. I think probably maybe my favorite scene is the whammy burger scene. where he shows up.
Yeah.
He's a whole whopping 4 minutes late. They've stopped serving breakfast at 11:30. I think it's 11:34. And of course, the girl behind the
Do you guys recognize who that is? Which I'm curious if Rebecca recognizes the cashier. Who
Oh,
that
that's
is.
Michelle Pfeiffer's little sister.
Yeah,
See, I didn't even know that.
she was on the episode of Seinfeld too.
Well-
She's a part of George becoming the opposite. I know.
I mean
Nathan's
that's
not-
Yeah,
why I haven't,
I-
because Seinfeld sucks.
She's
but-
like when you see her face and you're like, oh yeah, that's her.
And she
You're
was
like,
in
I know her
Vamp
face.
too. Nathan, remember she was in Vamp as the waitress that.
Oh,
that the hero
okay,
had.
yeah, because I was like, she looks familiar, like really familiar,
Yeah.
and I couldn't place. I'm like, she's hot though. But yeah, she's
Yeah.
I like her performance a lot because she's just sitting there, kind of like, okay, whatever.
I know.
Oh, it makes
That
you
would
so
that would
mad,
so
though,
be
when she
me
says
if somebody came in and did that. I'm like,
it.
Yep, our
because
food
you would
sucks.
say, "Oh, we're not serving it." You know, with that
Yeah.
smile, like, oh my god, when people would
even
do that, as a kid,
even when
they
he
shake
has
their
his
face.
gun out and he's like, this food's shit, and she's like, yeah, I know. She's just giving us like,
That's what I'm talking about.
But he's like, all right, can I speak to your manager? The manager comes up, like being a complete shitbag to him too. So that's when he pulls the gun out. And I like the person that you just hear, he got a gun. I'm like, holy. I like that. I like that too.
And that sequence of that where he says, "Sir, where are you going?" is a man leaving his wife. Like,
Oh, yeah,
he's
he's
so
He just
scared.
points at the
leaves his
door.
wife sitting there frozen. Yeah.
where are you going?
No, you sit down there and just notice that he left his wife in the middle of a possible
Yeah.
shooting.
And he's like, it's a,
what
it's
kind of a
okay,
husband he
it's
is.
okay. And then like he accidentally squeezes it. He's like, no, the trigger's sensitive, and everyone's freaking out. It's like,
As he's pointing it at people.
yeah. How is your food good? Oh, and how's yours? That lady just like
Oh, yeah.
throws up right there. And of course, that's when he says, Tyler.
If you have a critic, which that line always stuck out with Nathan
Yeah.
too. And I think watch it with my dad. He always laughed at that line too,
But
because it is such a good lighthearted moment during a very tense.
But it
scene.
was funny that they're sitting there saying, hey, you have to order something off the lunch menu. We're done doing breakfast. And as soon as all of that starts to break down, and he's like, well, I'll like my breakfast, she immediately turns around and the shit's right there. I'm like, well, you could have just given him the breakfast.
Yeah, I noticed that too. She's like grabbing it from the stack. I'm like,
And
Could've
that,
given it to him,
that
avoided all
problem is
this.
such a common problem with every man and woman in this country. Everybody has tried to go to McDonald's or Hardee's or wherever, missing breakfast. And why it took these restaurants so long to make breakfast a little bit more accessible throughout the day, I've never understood why they just chose to have always had that cutoff point and have to deal with angry people who may sleep in late or whatever, and they want an egg McMuffin or some French toast sticks from Burger
Yeah.
King, and you missed the cutoff.
Yeah.
You know, it's. I'd say probably. Would you guys say that's the most common problem that people can relate to, or the convenience store?
No, definitely. I would say the fast food thing, just not even in terms of the missing breakfast part, but also getting your food.
A squash.
Yeah, because when he gets there, he's like,
yeah,
this is what I'm talking
Yeah.
about. Look at the picture. That's plump, juicy, and look at this squashed thing.
It's
Yeah.
thick. And I guess that made me think of McDonald's burgers back then too, because I remember for a while, like I remember seeing McDonald's burgers look like someone had taken a mallet and just beat the shit out of it. I'm like, who is back there going? "Ugh," and wraps it up. Here you go.
I think it's just the
Today,
cheeseburgers and
I'm-
stuff, because I've gotten Big Macs recently, and those are pretty, like, they look okay. They're not, like, smashed and look shitty.
uh,
I guess I'm just thinking of like 90s McDonald's because I haven't eaten anything from any of the fast food chains in who knows how long. So it's
yeah.
I
Last
just
time I got something at McDonald's was when I was a little kid. Well, that's
Yeah.
not true. Last time I got a hamburger was when I was a little kid. I've gotten fish fillets or
Oh,
whatever
yeah,
they're
the
called.
fish.
that was my mom's favorite from
I mean,
McDonald's. That was
Those
her
are good,
go-to.
but those are like the old people sandwich. I feel like the only...
The
It's a
fish.
giant fish stick. It's a
So
giant
the,
fish stick.
I went
Who
there
doesn't love a
whenever I
giant fish
didn't
stick?
eat meat or didn't eat red meat. So I was like, that's the only thing I'm going to
Yeah.
eat right now because I was grossed out by the chicken nuggets.
Oh
and-
man, that was the best though. The chicken nuggets, the barbecue sauce.
This is
Oh
like
my
several
God,
years
it was
ago.
like a drug.
We never go to McDonald's.
Actually,
It's always windy.
I went to McDonald's yesterday because I got to get that McRib because it's only here for like a month. It's
Yeah.
only here for a month and then it's
I've
gone.
never had one.
They are good. When I ate fast food, I did eat that quite a few times. It was good.
Never had one.
Just
Yeah.
go get one because they're gone here in like 2 weeks, I think, which is a bummer.
I should, because then I'll miss them
But
if I get.
And then Joe's just gonna give you shit because you haven't experienced what life is like if you've had the McRib.
Joe doesn't even really like them too much, does he?
Really? I thought he got hard nipples from
I
McRibs.
thought he was saying he didn't think they were that great.
Maybe if it was free, if he got it for
Oh
free.
well, I mean, if it's free, like
Free food makes it taste
Yeah.
better. Yeah.
Oh yeah, everything tastes better when it's free, according to Joe.
he'll eat it.
That's his slogan. It's better when it's free.
His story
Whatever
of
it
the
is
guy.
in life, it's better when it's
It's the
free.
story of the guy with the meat sandwiches.
The Coupon King, getting all
Yeah.
that shit out of the dumpster. What? It was wrapped in plastic. It's still good. It's still good.
Oh.
See, doesn't he make you think of
couldn't
George
do it.
Costanza, Rebecca, when he's eating out of the garbage and he's like,
Oh God.
was it above the line? It's like, well, it's kind of like, well, that's garbage. Like
Yeah.
that's Joe trying to justify
Oh my
eating
God.
garbage.
It's so good. It's got the wrapper on it. It's like, no.
That's garbage.
I gotta
But you know,
rewatch
if
that.
Joe was ever caught eating out of the garbage, he'd say, "You want some?" Like he wouldn't be ashamed.
Oh, no.
Like caught like a cockroach. He'd scatter away in the light. He would offer. Well, actually, no, he wouldn't offer. He'd say, "There's more in here." You know?
Yeah. I mean, he
I guess-
he would share the wealth, Jay. You just can't eat his.
Yeah, he's a very giving bum. You know, he likes to share the wealth that he finds that day. You know,
I could,
if he finds
yeah,
it.
I could see him.
I'm sure Joe's gonna be happy now because we talked about him quite a few times in this podcast. So he'll get
Well,
his fix, and he's like, "Okay, I'm done. They're done talking about
I
me.
mean,
I'm out."
he'll always get brought up because he's just that character with such mystery and mystique to him, but at the same time, like he's a hobo, you know. So
I'm hoping like maybe we can get him to wear like a Rastafarian wig sometime where he's like Joe's like wearing dreadlocks, you know, like embracing. You know, I think it'd be funny. as
yeah,
hell.
but then we're treading into that whole Adrian Brody territory where like he got kicked off he's not allowed back on Saturday Night Live anymore.
Why isn't
Because
on
he was
Saturday
wearing the
Night
hat
Live?
and doing the accent, and people were like, come
Oh,
on, man.
I didn't.
Oh, I forgot all
I
about
haven't
that.
watched Saturday Night
Yeah,
Live.
yeah.
There was some white guy at the gym with dreadlocks yesterday. That's why I guess I was just thinking Joe could be doing it because that's kind of the gimmick. We make fun of Joe because he's like Steve Martin in The Jerk. I want to stay this color.
I thought about getting dreads back in high school, actually.
I
So
have
stupid.
not a hard time
So
picturing that.
stupid. Because I was wanting to do like dreads and then like getting the piercing my ears, but then
It looks like
but then,
Gary
stretching.
Oldman in True Romance.
Yeah. God. No.
Yeah.
That'd be. That,
Nathan been knee deep in bitches back in school back then if he had dreads, man.
you never know. Could have been.
It's not like Nathan wasn't knee deep in bitches back in high school anyway. He'd be a gangster with a crew. Knee deep bitches, man. Well, at least that's how Joe presents himself on dating sites. I feel like we could do a whole episode on Joe's love life. Like that would be fun. Just Joe, just shut up and let us come up with ideas on what we figure. You know, Joe's like, you know, how would Joe propose to someone? How would Joe ask a girl out? You know,
Well,
oh my God, this guy's
I
a
think when asking a girl out, he would probably just. I mean, it would obviously probably have to be like at the Dollar Tree or in a Popeyes or somewhere where he.
It had to be like probably the cashier that rings him up.
Yeah.
Like he thinks she knows his routine. She's like, you know me. This girl knows me. She gets me. This is my soulmate. She knows my order. I come in every day. She knows my order.
I think that's what he does.
Or she's the girl who's like, oh, you don't have enough money? That's okay. You're close enough. You know.
Like she wants me.
Like, you don't have to give me that extra 50 cents. I'll let it pass.
Must be love.
And love.
I think that is what he does because he has admitted that he likes to converse with the various cashiers and people at establishments like that. So I think that's.
Don't do that. Then do not do that. There is nothing worse than being hit on while you're at work. because you're stuck. You have to play nice.
Oh yeah.
There's nothing worth that.
The
Please,
girls
man,
get hit
do
on
not
waves.
do that. Unless she's showing
It is-
signs. Unless she's showing signs like, oh, I am actually into this. Don't do it.
would,
Please.
Tyler, it'd be like that. It'd be like that girl at Journeys. Remember that I was talking to her, and then Sam got all pissed off. You remember that?
Oh God, yeah.
Uh,
And it was and you were with Sarah at the time. Like, and Sarah was there too, because I remember.
are you sure?
Because
I
I
thought it
remember
was Sam.
It was you, me. I'm pretty sure Sarah that you were seeing Sam, but you weren't official, and Sarah wanted to hang out.
Oh, okay.
So the three of us were at the mall, and then you told Sam, "Hey, I spoke to the Deadpool girl," and she was like, "Fuck you."
Yeah, no, that's
It's like Chris Farley. I'm hostile.
that's pretty much how it was. And she was Deadpool girl because I was wearing my Deadpool shirt. And this is before, like, well, way before the movies and any of
got
that. Yeah.
super popular.
And she was really into comic books. It's like, oh hey, and then we just like we
That's
talked
cool.
for a while, and I'm like, huh. And this was in that weird space, like not with Sarah, but still friends and like hanging out. Don't know anything about that, and then like Sam's here. So yeah, once again, Tyler saying me being knee deep in bitches or whatever. I guess that may have been one of those.
Yeah, I was like, come on, go, because he clearly was interested. Go talk to her, man. And I think I got thrown under the bus like it was my fault that he
I
went.
did. I had.
Like, well, Tyler made me do it.
I had to take the heat off of me a little bit and pass it on to
Which
you.
wouldn't be the first time friends would throw me under the bus involving women. As if like I'm like, yeah, come on, man, no one's looking. Go over there and get you some of that, man.
And he was
there.
laying that
No one's
on
gonna
pretty
know.
thick. He's like, dude, like she's hot. She likes comics. Do they like comics?
Because he was letting me know he was clearly interested. All I was doing was like, look, you clearly are interested. You're not obligated to anybody around. Go and go say hello. That I was not saying, "What you fucker?" When he walked back or something like that, like I was like, "Give me all the smart." I was just like, he clearly was interested. Go for it, dude. I was trying to be a good best friend.
And then I threw you under the fucking
It blew
bus.
up, and he's like, "Tyler made me do it."
Yeah.
Because I think Sam like contacted me after that.
It all went to shit.
She's like, I hope you burn in
It
hell.
all went.
She's like, I hope you die of gonorrhea and rot in hell.
It all went to shit.
Well, if you weren't in a relationship, then it's like.
And he wasn't. But like with anything else, when you are talking to someone and they hear you're talking to someone else, everyone has to be under that guise that you are strictly talking to that is, you have to be under that. Your head's got to be in the sand. You cannot observe that. And if you do, you have to be cool.
Yeah,
You can't.
They call that playing the
you
field,
can't
right?
be
They
like-
call that playing the field, and that was what they call it.
Playing the field or being cool about it. You can't put pressure, or you're trying to tie them down. Yet you have. I mean, technically, it can't be argued, but people have to be under that guise that you're the
The
only
thing is,
one
if you're
speaking
not-
to them.
Like, when it's fine until you're like, okay, well, we're boyfriend and girlfriend. Let's make this official. Before that, it's like you can. I guess.
Until you already had that discussion and you clearly have got that common ground, you have
can
no
talk
right,
to
but
other
people will still get upset. People are like, rah, rah, and they start kicking stuff and breaking stuff and pushing over dog food and jumping in dumpsters and closing the lid and don't ever come out for days. And, I imagine that's how Joe responds when he sees like his Popeyes cashier talking to someone else, and he's like, I'm gonna do it right now, and just jumps off the roof of Popeyes into the dumpster. He just hurts himself. He doesn't end it all. He just like, oh god.
Because it's only like.
I don't think it would
Portion
hurt
tall.
too much if you landed in the dumpster if it had shit in it. Might not be that bad.
No, he's like, I gotta have comfort food, and just jumps right into the dumpster.
This is all filled with glass and shit.
Yeah, he's like, oh god.
I always think of that when I see people jumping in dumpsters in movies. I'm like, there's those broken bottles and
There's
all other
baby
shit.
diapers in there.
Oh,
Like the episode
hobo
of Jack
sleeping in there.
he's pretending to eat baby diaper and it's just pudding in there.
Ugh. No.
Oh god.
Yeah, we did it again. We got way off topic like we usually
But
do.
you know what? We're having fun doing. I'm not gonna stress.
Oh,
about
yeah,
it
no.
Because
yeah.
people on our channel, if they're
They know.
if they
They
use-
know.
if they
They know.
they know. I'm gonna use the bathroom.
All right,
I'll be
all
right
right.
back.
We'll do that. Hopefully no echo there. All right. So once I don't know what he said. When after we deal with the whammy burger thing, this is when Robert Duvall's character is starting to piece certain things together, because the Asian guy at the convenience store comes in and he wants to file a report, but he wasn't robbed or anything. He's like, wait, so you're saying that he busted up your shit, but he paid and then he left? Oh, well, he can't really do anything. But then these things start accumulating, you know? He's piecing it together. It was a guy with a flat top, and he looks like you, but younger, is sort of the description that was given to him over time. So he's starting to put all this together, and it's also starting to we get pieces in between. The phone call that he's wanting to make is to his wife, his ex-wife, and at first he's not saying anything. He's just doing the creepy, heavy breathing thing into the phone and hanging up.
Yeah.
But we learn as the movie progresses that essentially his anger has gotten the best of their marriage. They're no longer together, but he wants to see his daughter because it's going to be her birthday.
Yeah.
All right. I was kind of curious when you put those back in if it'd do the echoey thing that it usually does. We were talking about how the phone calls that he's wanting to make are to his ex-wife. It's his kid's birthday. We know they're not together.
Yeah.
We also know that Robert Duvall's gradually picking up on these incident reports. They seem to be pegging. It's all starting to move together that something's not quite right here.
Yeah.
Yeah, but at this time you still feel bad for him because you don't realize things are as bad as they are with him. Like, his wife's not as angry or scared. She doesn't seem as scared. She's just kind of like, I know it's you, you know. You almost feel like, oh, she's the bad guy at first. Like, oh, she left him. He's sad. You don't realize how bad he was, yet you still feel a lot of sympathy for him at this point. So.
And it wasn't even like, even towards the end of it, it's not really implied how bad he was per se to her, other than what you see in that little family video.
Yeah, you just see him being a hothead, like an ass. You're like, oh, this guy's an asshole, you know.
So we're just seeing it like manifest in the progress of this morning and afternoon in this film of just what he is capable of.
Yeah, and that shocked me because going into that, I've seen scenes of the movie and I was expecting all the cool stuff, you know, all the, you know, that satisfying of tearing things up, but I was shocked by what his true intentions were in him, like, that dark side of him. Like, I wasn't expecting that in the movie.
And I think it comes out to a head the most when the gangsters, we come back to those guys. They're in the car with the rest of their friends. They're like, hey, we're gonna find this guy, we're gonna take him out. While he's making a phone call, they notice him. They do a drive-by, which I'm like, holy shit, like, you probably just killed 3-4 more people.
Oh yeah.
And don't hit him at all, which was a great shot where he's just saying that he completely no-sells the bullets just going around him. And then they swerve off and just crash. And he walks over to him and sees, like, the bag of guns, and everybody's dead but the one guy who's just laying there, and he has this nice back and forth with him, and then, like, shoots him in the leg. And I think that's when it really... You're starting to get the gravity of, it's not just this guy who's wrong place, wrong time. It's starting to change into something else. We're starting to see, like, where his brain is starting to turn, and that's when he ends up at the surplus store, which is another one of
that's what I feel like, though, in this scene, though, to piggyback on what you just said, I feel like this scene is when we really see that he's a very dark man.
Yeah.
The aftermath. Phone call he makes to Barbara Hershey after the aftermath of the surplus store. Him sitting in the back saying, oh no, I'm coming home. Like, the lighting, the way it's shot, he comes off as a very dangerous man. Like, someone that you feel like in this moment, in this phone call, he could possibly hurt his ex-wife. The way he's talking. Like, I don't care, nothing's stopping me.
And
you can't stop me.
Yeah, it's perfectly built up to that too. You start off the movie, you just feel bad for him, and you're, like, sympathizing with him, and you're living through him, and that satisfying, like, oh yeah, that's what people deserve, that shit, you know. And then you're like, oh, it takes you somewhere else with him, and it's so good. That's just such a good movie.
Well, let's talk about the surplus store because the guy running the surplus store, not a good dude. He's
He used to be on 21 Jump Street before they brought on I forget what's his name. He was like the guy who led the gang on the first few episodes of 21 Jump Street. He had hair.
I was gonna say if he had hair, but
and he was thin. He was real thin.
And you could pick up on this from the beginning. You go in, you see him behind the counter, no hair, clean shaven. Obviously, I would assume that he is a veteran in the military, unless he's just completely whacked out, which it could also be that angle too. I can't remember if he says anything specifically.
I'd almost say, I never thought for one second he was a veteran. I thought he was just one of these hardcore, fascist Nazi assholes.
Skinhead.
Who just grew up with, who was taught these ideas.
It could be then.
Who likes to think of himself as one of those people, but they're not one of those people.
Yeah. But clearly from the get-go, not a good guy. We have a couple dudes in there that are shopping around that we would assume are in a relationship together.
Well, it's pretty much the how they speak to each other clearly is that they are a gay couple. Like there's no
and you could say from the style of dress, it would be easily implied, especially in the early 90s like that they are a gay couple. But he doesn't take too kindly to them being in the store and lets them know as such when he's talking around. And Michael Douglas is looking for a new pair of shoes or boots because it's so hot out there and he's walked so much he's worn a hole in the sole of his work shoes. But obviously, I think this will be the second part of the movie that I feel would be quite offensive to new eyes watching it today, with the words that are used and the things that are said and the violence that would be implied. Because I'm going to say this now, we're going to go ahead and quote some of the stuff from it. So, if you're sensitive to such a thing, then here's your big warning. But
we're just quoting a movie. We do not mean any offense by it.
This is not implying that we're siding with the Nazi douchebag in the film.
But I think talking about this and saying it in the context of how it was said, quoting the movie.
Well, I really feel like this scene is meant to be offensive. It's not. Even today, it's like
it's
we're
exactly
setting
how
up
it's
a very,
supposed to be.
very ugly man. Like he is the character is offensive. Like there's nothing to even today. It's like, well, yes, this a Nazi sympathizer today is just as offensive back then as it would be today. So anybody who watches this now, who's part of the woke movement, in terms of like telling everybody they can't say this and that. Obviously, there's certain things that's a good thing that we're showing more, common courtesy to every man and woman, no matter what they're interested in, what they like, orientation, whatever. This guy is just out to hate for the sake of hating, and would be it's
And those people exist.
Yeah.
So
yes, they do.
You need to represent them because you don't. They really do exist.
Is making aware that,
to make you like
anybody who runs a surplus store acts like this, but there are people out there who
pretending they don't exist is just living in a fantasy world.
Yeah, that's true too.
And you can sit there and tell people what they can and cannot say, but if you're going to tell someone who clearly is letting you know visually, hey, I think a certain particular way, and you're not going to tell me how to think, like, you can't control. I mean, there's going to be evil in this world no matter what we do. You can't stop it.
And we get,
unfortunately,
and we get that confrontation right there in that scene, because he's looking at the boots. He walks up to him. He's like, I see you're looking at that. And those guys are off in the distance, and he's like, they're good for stomping queers. And he says it loud enough so they can hear it, and you see the scene where they.
And even he looks at it when he says it, like he wants, which makes you feel like if Michael hadn't walked in the store, at what point would he went after to try and assault that couple?
That's entirely true.
Would he have waited till they came up to pay for the stuff? Would he have said anything at all? It's but even though not that Michael's character was doing anything to antagonize such a.
But you got to think because the surplus guy, it's shown when Michael Douglas walks in the store that clearly he's listening to the police scanner. So he's listened to all of these scenarios going on, getting the description, notices him, and I think that's when it kind of lets the guard down for him to start being that way and be like, oh, well, he's in here, he's doing all this, and even tells him, it's like, you're a vigilante, huh?
Yeah.
Those assholes always think that way, though.
Yeah.
They're so quick to think you're one of them if you say anything remotely, like, against the system.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, well, you're like me, too. And I'm like, no.
No, I'm
No
an
one's
American.
like you.
You're a sick asshole.
Yeah, and that's
Exactly.
exactly what he tells him. So
That's so realistic that they... Like, yes, this character's very offensive, but he's portrayed it in a very negative light. So it's not... It should not offend you for
Yeah,
watching
it's by no means like Joel Schumacher is a gay man, so it's the movie's directed by a someone who clearly knows what he's doing here. The situation is meant to emphasize a very ugly.
Yeah, it's not like,
persona
oh, this is
and-
the
and
goofy
perspective.
fascist here.
It's not glorifying, a sick Nazi asshole. It's letting you know from the get go, this guy's an evil guy. And Evil Michael, as aggressive as he is, like, we're nothing to like, dude. Like, get the fuck away from me.
So he gets the gay dudes leave the store, not without dropping some sunglasses, because the one guy is like wanting to do something. He's like, oh, come on. It's like, no, it's not worth it. And they leave, knock down the sunglasses and everything.
Which gives you the impression that when one of them says, I don't need this shit today, like, it's a time when, even though in that area part of the country, you feel like homosexuality was a little bit more accepted, not like it is today, but obviously it's a time where the gay community is being, it's not thought of in the most welcoming perspective even back then. So you kind of feel like that's setting it up. They look, these two guys go through controversy probably on a daily basis.
And that's when it really opens him up to, it's like, hey, you're that guy, right? And then he's, I got something to show you. And they go to the back, and that's when the curtain, literally and figuratively, is completely pulled open, where you find out this dude is basically just Nazi sympathizer. He's like, hey, check this out. I'm sure this killed a bunch of Jews, right? And you're just like, holy fuck.
Yeah.
And that's...
Oh, yeah, he's like, this is you. So he's so excited about it.
Yeah,
Jesus
and Michael Douglas putting it all together, and that's when they have the conversation. We're nothing alike. And then that's when he turns on him, and he's like, oh, you're going to get raped in prison and all this stuff. And it escalates to a point where Michael Douglas has to end up killing him, because in the bag with the guns, even, was it after...
The butterfly knife.
Was it after the drive-by where he bought the snow globe, or before?
Yeah, he bought this. The
it was
snow globe
after.
was that was after. He picked up the bag of guns. The snow globe is when he sells the economically viable guy on the street.
Yeah, which shit, that's even another thing.
Which that was Ben Urich from Daredevil.
Really?
Ah.
Huh.
Yeah, and he was in Die Hard too. As one of the henchmen that Bruce Willis fights at the beginning of the film.
And
too.
that's another thing.
I noticed
He
he
was such a great Ben
was
Urich.
dressed. I noticed he was just dressed just like Michael Douglas's character, and I didn't know if there was some. I'm sure there's some meaning
Well,
behind
I
that.
mean, I think like the biggest takeaway from it is like he's a black man who couldn't get a loan, which is why he has that conversation with that one white guy. It's like, sir, did they give you what you want? Oh, he's economically viable, and that's just that's a whole other thing that isn't even explored in the movie. That's just like a tiny...
And that's a sad thing, especially with the accompanying music, when he gets arrested for just wanting a loan, and he's just mad that he couldn't make his way in the world, and wants people to know, hey, look, I just thought that was such a very sad but much needed scene of society in the movie. And it just emphasizes just what a shitty world we live in.
That's sort of the whole general thing of this movie. It's just everything, just people suck. Everybody sucks.
Yeah.
But he gets that snow globe, which we kind of totally glossed over, but that's like his present to his daughter, since today's her birthday party. And of course, does that dude even have a name, the surplus guy? Did they ever
Yeah,
Is he
my name is. Yeah, he says. Yeah, he says. Oh my god, because he does introduce himself. Oh man, now that you ask me, I'm drawing a complete blank. Damn it. Yes, but he does introduce himself to Michael. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
shit.
kind of shitty. We don't know his name, but so he's got him, sort of like, hey, stand back here, spread him. You're going like, you're gonna be arrested and all this shit. And he's looking through his bag, and of course we get the infamous scene where he holds a snow globe and he's like, what do we got here? Says the word. I don't know if I should say it, but he takes it, throws the snow globe. It busts. The context of the scene and the way that things are said, it is honestly kind of amusing. But
he's such an awful character that at times it's funny because you're like, oh my god, this is so. It's so awful.
Well, it's just his delivery and how he says stuff, because there's one.
That scene especially, it's like it's almost comedical the way he says it.
Well, there's even the line before it where he's like, and what about them muff divers, huh? Think about it. And just that.
Think about
it. He's so over the top.
Yeah, it's over the top. It's crazy. You have to laugh at certain things. But he breaks the snow globe, and that's when Michael Douglas loses his shit. They have a little razz, and he kills him. And I think the darkness was building up of what he's capable of. But that moment right there, I think that's when it just completely changes the entire perspective of where his mind is. Because
yeah, but at the same time, you're like, oh, that's a good character they picked for him to kill finally.
Yeah.
It's like that's the kind of person that would send that person over the edge.
Yeah.
And
it does make you feel like he's gone this far. Like everybody he meets past that point, you feel like it's susceptible to being shot.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
When he's willing to take a life, clearly, I mean, not that he really runs into. I mean, the old man on the golf course who, what he does inadvertently after all that, but, we can get to that.
Yeah, he doesn't kill him, he lets him die.
Anybody can be killed off at this point. Like, nothing is left, nobody's safe.
Well, let's talk about that scene. After he leaves the surplus, he's got a new getup now. He's
Oh yeah, that's one thing John pointed out to me. He's like, he upgrades in this. He starts out, he gets a bat from the convenience store, then he gets a knife from the thugs, and he gets his bag of guns.
Yeah. Grand Theft Auto, man. He's just constantly upgrading his arsenal as you continue with the game.
Yeah, but he decides he's going to cut through a golf course, and there's these two old dudes that are golfing, and the one guy gets pissed at him. He's like, what are you doing? I pay this to come do this, right?
I pay my fucking dues.
Yeah, and when he pulls the gun out to be like, hey, that's when the dude starts having a heart attack. He shoots the golf cart. The golf cart takes away. He's like, my pills. Oh, you need your pills? Where are they? And it's like the golf cart's just careening down to like this little pond.
And then, as he says, it goes into the pond.
Yeah. And he's like, oh, well, I guess you're kind of fucked now. He's like, you could do anything with this. You could make it a park. You could have this over there. And that does...
Families should be having picnics too.
Yeah.
There should be kids playing like a damn pennies, dude.
So it does kind of swing back a little ways into more of that territory of what had happened before. Of like, he brings up valid points. Like everything in the movie is just like, yeah, that checks out.
Yeah.
But
a commentary on rich assholes, people who think that even though those guys were just doing their own thing, but to be that hostile towards someone walking, and his friends like, look, I don't like the look of this guy. Just leave him alone. Like.
Mm-hmm.
That entitled mentality, and it's not someone who's young and in their 20s. This is some old fuck, who's just like, I get off my course. You can't play through. No one says you can play through. It's like, no, he's passing through. Just that mentality of like, you can't think beyond yourself. Like that guy needed to have the shit scared out.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody deserves to die, but it just shoots the golf cart, and it's enough to just send the guy into a heart attack. But you don't feel too bad. I feel bad for the guy's friend.
Yeah.
When he's like, oh my God, like I gotta get a paramedic and go after the pills. Like, I felt more bad for him than the guy having the heart attack. And even when the guy's dying, he's like, of course. He's like, yeah, he's gonna die wearing a silly hat.
What
don't really I don't feel too bad for that guy, and I hate saying it, but I'm like, he's even when he's dying, he's still an
I
asshole.
was gonna save this question for the end, but I'll go ahead and ask it now. With the serious tone and how things take place, and how we've kind of laughed at a lot of the stuff that's happened, would you kind of consider this a black comedy?
Yeah, in some ways.
No, I still would consider kind of a drama thriller
Yeah.
almost. I mean, because even when I first saw it, I wasn't laughing at anything. It's only started laughing when I started talking to Nathan about it over the years.
True.
You know,
Like when it becomes inside jokes and whatever.
Yeah,
quotes.
when you start quoting it with friends, you start laughing because you're quoting during a particular moment in time. But in watching it, you know, I don't laugh at it.
Like even
You know,
even now,
I
even
laugh.
after all, like because to me the line that you just delivered, where the guy's like, "My golf course," is like, yeah, and you're gonna die on it wearing that stupid hat, like that makes
Well,
me
yeah,
laugh.
like when we're talking, I can't help but laugh. But if I'm watching it in the confines of my own home, I'm not laughing out loud like, "Oh, that's a good
I
one
mean
there, Michael."
that made me laugh out loud
Watching the
last night.
scene. Well, I think by this point, you know, I'm not surprised, but I don't look at it as a comedy by any means. Like I would never
Well,
tell
no,
anybody
that's why I'm
it's a
saying.
dark
Well,
comedy.
yeah, that's what I'm saying though. Like dark comedy, like
It's very,
it's
yeah.
But even that,
It's swinging on that pendulum,
It's trying
but
to be. I just don't think it's intentionally funny though. You know, I think the scenes are realistic. That you know, you may laugh at how he responds, but it's not meant to be funny. You know, I mean, you can laugh at him destroying the phone booth with the Uzi.
oh yeah, that was a
but
good
it's not
scene
meant to
too.
be funny.
Hey asshole,
You know?
some of us we need to use the phone too.
I mean, you could cheer in those moments. I mean, there's a lot of moments you would cheer because you would want to do that
Right.
yourself. And of course, laughing at the woman throwing up in the whammy burger, yeah, that is a funny moment. That's meant to be funny, you know, and seeing the husband. But I just would never tell anybody if you want to watch Falling Down because it's a dark comedy. I say no, it's a very good like thriller / drama. You know, not thriller in the standard context, but I think because you don't know how bad it's going to get. Like you're kind of left thinking like, oh my god, it just gets worse and worse and worse. So, because I remember the video store, it was always in the drama section, and I always thought it was kind of an action movie almost, you know, but it's clearly not.
Yeah, I would classify it more like if you had to pin it in a genre, I would say drama.
Yeah, even though it does feel more. If they were to put it in the action section of a video store, I wouldn't argue it, but it's more drama based. Yeah. But I kind of feel like, you know, it's a police story. Police stories are mainly in the action section for the most part, not all. But
yeah, I think you're right. I think looking back at it, I think all those comedic scenes are perfectly timed to make it not weigh so much on you. It's like
yeah, because you do need a moment.
You need that moment to release that and like, that is funny, but it isn't like, oh, that's such a funny movie, let's watch that movie,
yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Like,
I guess you're right.
Like the way it came out in '93, like I can't imagine the audience laughing at most of the stuff, even the golf course scene. Like I'm sure they're just sitting like, oh my god, like he's belittling this old man as he's dying right in front of him, like making fun of him. Like it's not.
But then people with a dark sense of humor is like, haha. That's hilarious.
I mean, yeah, I'm sure that some asshole like, that's a good one.
Yeah, but you also get those people that would like, yeah, you could also have those people that would take the film and just be like, I could do that, you know? So it's, yeah, so it's just kind of apples and oranges.
Yeah, I think Tyler's right. I don't think it's a black comedy. I think it's a drama with perfect little amounts of comedy.
Little tension breaks.
Because something
tension breaks.
Because that film was so controversial when it came out.
I can imagine.
It was like I remember like I think everybody was kind of under scrutiny for the film, and I never did quite figure out what parts of it people were considered like why is this so controversial? Is it the Nazi sympathizer? Is it the Korean store?
I would think it was none of that. I would guess it was this will encourage violence, like Nathan pointed out.
Possibly so. Yeah,
in the '90s that was a big thing. Video games encourage
made
violence.
during the Rodney King riots. Like it was, they even say those were going on as they were filming it. So that's what you probably nailed it. It probably was feeling like, hey, people are going to see this, like both you all have said, and I'm going to go do this in society. Which I'm kind of surprised that, of course, that we were kids at the time, so I don't know if there were any copycats from the film at the
No,
time.
I think.
But today, I could see some fucked up asshole see it today and say, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna go relive that," and I'll just blame the movie for my crazy ass,
I mean,
massacre.
what? But what if it blows some shit up at a construction site where they have the road closed just because
God.
they gotta use the money?
Talking about
There's nothing wrong with
upgrades.
the road. It was fine 2 weeks ago, or 2 days
But
ago.
say,
Talking about
and he didn't have to
upgrades,
go
then he
that
gets his
far.
fucking bazooka,
Yeah,
rocket
and that
launcher.
kid teaches him
I feel
how to
like,
use it.
That
Oh yeah.
You're doing it wrong. No, you got to take this and flip that out. How did you know that?
Which I mean, I remember when we had road trouble. I think when I was in 12th grade, and I told my mom had to light a flare. She goes, how did you know that? Like watching movies. I mean, I understood that kid's perspective, like pointing out how to use a bazooka, because when you're watching stuff, things you're really into click with you. They stick with you a lot. So I don't feel like it was far fetched for that boy to tell him how to use a bazooka properly.
That's kind of fun.
But like hitting the asshole in the car who's screaming at the old lady and just like he enters the scene by punching
Yeah.
him. And then I think that part is satisfying because we all know what it's like to be in traffic with assholes. And then clearly seeing a construction worker who just admits, no, nothing's wrong with it. It's like they've got money we got to blow and piss away.
Oh yeah, he comes up
So
and the guy's just like laying down. And you're like,
yeah.
That's where it gets back to that more like, oh, this is just satisfying
Which
to watch.
anytime we see construction going on the roads, we feel like the road was fine yesterday and you dug it up, destroyed it, and put everybody behind 30 minutes.
I think
to
the
an
only
hour.
thing that could have made that scene more accurate is if it would have been 4 or 5 guys standing there doing nothing while one guy was doing the work.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
That would have been the.
Which to this day is not an exaggeration.
Everybody else has got to supervise, but man, we're kind of coming towards the tail end of this thing where
my headphones are almost dead, so at some point I'll probably have to take them out and let them recharge.
Let's go ahead and wrap up the movie and wrap up this episode and give our rankings and everything. He finally makes it back home. She kind of on the run, which another thing we didn't talk about before is when she called the cops to be like, hey, I want to report this, and the one asshole cop's like, well, has he hit you? And she's like, well,
that was infuriating.
not necessarily. And that's a whole other layer of like police force and how they prioritize things sometimes and how they act or what. So another layer of that right there. But
I look at that could be interpreted that way, but also look at it as setting it up to making his character arrive at the house with no police interference, because you're trying to she's doing a very good job of like, look, my husband has anger issues, I'm afraid he's going to hit me or my child, like that's why we're not together.
Yeah, and they're like, oh,
you
mean he didn't actually hit you? And it's like,
but
they're being assholes. Yeah,
to not convey that, look, I'm worried that he will, is clearly set up that way. When he does show up, the police aren't there. I mean, not until it's just. I feel like it's deliberately getting the police out of the story, so there's no chance of them being around. Yeah. So
I could see that too. That they probably wrote it that way. It's like, oh well, this will make more sense. But he gets to the house.
Yeah.
Right.
She has already taken the kid, and they've gone to the pier, and he unfortunately knows that's where they're probably at. So he.
Right, because she gets a phone call, and he's like at the place right next to their house, and he's like, you won't believe this, they don't have her favorite ice cream, I think it was.
Which is creepy.
And she's like, shit, he's right here, and zooms out of the house.
Which I mean, in that scenario I would too, because
because right before that, people who haven't watched it, he made the comment in one of the phone calls that, did you know it's legal to kill your wife in certain countries?
Yes.
And that's when you're like, okay, shit.
You don't feel sorry for him
he's
anymore.
gone.
At this point,
he's too far gone.
He's done. He's out.
That was the shocking part, I think, for me, because I was not expecting that. Like, I was expecting all the cool, like, shoot 'em up.
Which kind of makes you feel like this is probably a thought he's had in the back of his head
the whole time.
It's just being brought more to the forefront. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it alleviates that Barbara Hershey's character has more reason to fear him You know, as the movie progresses, like you don't feel like, why is she right? He's such a good man. He just went like, no,
Yeah.
like that's what makes the movie so deep.
And
It's not
Yes.
just a cut and dry. I'm taking out society.
Yeah.
Like, no, this is a very sick
and
man.
then correlating along with that with Robert Duvall going to his mother's house, to Michael Douglas's mom's house, and that's when everything else is peeled back. That no, he lost his job recently, and that may have been the thing that kind of put this into motion. They don't really give you as
Yep.
much of a timetable of like, well, I guess it would be a couple weeks, right? Because she was like, what's he been doing? He's been packing his lunch and all this. So obviously this has been going on for a little bit of time. So
So he already cracked.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, where's he
Yeah,
going?
he doesn't want people
He's
to know
acting
that
like
he's
he's going
lost
to
his
work.
job.
yeah. But now everyone, the rest of society, just in this one day has brought him down. Haha, hence the title.
It's falling
Yeah.
down.
But he finds them at the pier. Robert Duvall he's on it. He shows up too, and I really like the interaction of these two characters finally meeting, because he gets popcorn. You know, he's being calm, collected, like letting the wife know that yeah, he does have a gun on him. So he's walking around, he's distracting Michael Douglas, gives the kid the popcorn, and they're just talking about stuff. He's like, I just want to talk, and that's when one of the best lines in the film is, you know, he's telling him what he's done today, and he's just like, wait, I'm the bad guy, which is what you, the audience, have kind of been struggling with this whole time, because you're like, well, this he did, like, that makes sense, but like, yeah, I guess he's a bad guy too, because of not only what he did, but the intention that he has here. Like, he wants to kill his wife, kill his kid, and as Duvall says, like, well, after that, it would just be easy to turn it on to yourself, right? And that's when it all comes there, and he's like, I got a gun too. And it turns out just to be a water gun, which way earlier in the movie, it's kind of brilliant that they had the little girl playing with the water gun with the dog out in the yard.
Yeah.
How did you guys feel?
And his line of dialogue, like, I would have got you. Like, that almost, it brings you right back to feeling bad for him in that one moment when you realize this guy is very dangerous, and you're like, oh my god, that's sad. It falls over the pier.
I feel like in that last bit of like humanity, it's like, well, I'm gonna kill myself or have a suicide by cop killing too, as my less good deed kind of thing. Like, to protect my. He realizes what a monster he's become, and he wants to destroy that, I think.
See, I don't know. There's maybe, I guess, because if he knows he's got the water gun, you could be right with that.
Yeah, that could be. I feel like that ending could be interpreted a couple different ways in terms of his perception. Like, is he contemplating suicide, or is he in his mind thinking, I'm not a bad guy. I'm playing cops and robbers with you, you know, with the squirt gun, and it goes really bad. Like, he's so far gone, like he's out of reality. You know, that's why I feel like he could be suicide, or he really thinks he's kidding around with the police officer because he's got a water gun.
That's true. So once again, adding another layer to make you think a little bit more. This movie's got it's
a brilliant film.
And like I said,
well, I feel like that moment where he is like, wait, so I'm the bad guy? And he's like, well, if I'm the bad guy, that means I need to stop me.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. So yeah.
But I think his intentions were to kill his wife, his kids, and then himself, which unfortunately is a common pattern, unfortunately, in a lot of killings.
Yeah. That's especially with those that have reached that point like he has, of just completely broken one way or another, whether it's just the losing the job, or I kind of think about the Benoit deal, where it's like his brain was so damaged that he himself lost touch with reality, and we got that a lot in here. Just a complex movie. Like, it's simplistic with how it's laid out, but the more you really start thinking about it, it's like there's a lot of subtext, there's a lot of other issues that are just barely touched upon, but really make you think about a lot of things.
Or you can really just narrow down and say the man clearly doesn't know how to deal with modern day society in general. He doesn't know how to deal with prices he doesn't agree with. He doesn't know how to agree with approaching issues in a fast food chain. How to address being mugged,
being replaced.
Just give them what they want, and being replaced. You're obsolete. You're not economically viable, as he says later on in the film.
I think that's why they dressed him the way they did. They made him look like he wasn't modern. So they're like, this guy doesn't fit in. He doesn't know how to deal with the 90s.
He doesn't know how to assimilate with the culture of today. Mm-hmm. Even though some stuff we clearly agree with, it's clearly not the right way to go about it. You don't kill people. You don't attack people. You don't act out aggressively towards people. It's just not the human thing to do. Even though most of us would love to do it, it's not how people are in this day and age. Even there was a time where you could get away with being a lot more physically aggressive towards people who cross you don't like. Not today, or not in the 90s even. So.
There was a quote from one of these reviews, and just a couple of things that kind of, I was like, yeah, you know what, maybe that, let me see if I can find it really quick. Ah, damn it. I had it and then I closed everything, and then I'm like, I won't need to talk about it. How about this? An anti-Odyssey story about the lie of the American dream. I feel like that kind of encapsulates.
Yeah.
I feel that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that could be interpreted in so many ways, like dissecting that.
Yeah.
Like that statement of the film.
Would you guys want to do out of 5 stars or do it out of 10 when we rank these things?
I feel like 10 gives you more leeway with like 5 stars is almost like 3 means like it's because 3 is like quite a good rating. 2 and below is like saying it's shit. I almost feel like 10 you can kind of get away with. If it's above 5, it gives you more leeway to say it was a really good film, a few problems here and there, but I mean I give it a 9.5 or damn near perfect film.
Okay.
Go ahead and say it's a 10 because there's nothing wrong. There is nothing wrong with the film.
No.
It's not a dated film. It's a film that works today. It's a film you could show anybody.
It is a perfectly crafted film for what it is. It's told perfectly. You couldn't have started it better. You couldn't have ended it better. You couldn't have built that up better. Have those little moments of relief, like you said, those comic relief moments, which were just enough. None of them were like crazy funny or anything.
It doesn't kill the tone. That's what I got a problem with movies.
Exactly.
The tone is not consistent enough.
Exactly.
So Rebecca, what would
and the tone is?
What would you give it out of 10?
I'm trying to find something wrong with it to make me make it less than a 10, but I'm like, I can't.
Yeah.
It's such a perfectly crafted film.
Well,
I know. I can't find anything like, oh, I didn't like this part.
No,
it was.
Well, I know that every film we talk about, but literally, there is nothing wrong with the film. Like, the pacing is fine, the character development is fine. You're going back and forth with the good and the bad. Like it's got so much texture and depth to it. Like to sit there and say, I think the Korean convenience store scene went on a little too long. Like fuck you.
Yeah, nothing went on too long. All the characters were awesome. Even we didn't get into the police lady who was an awesome character.
She could have been fleshed out. I kind of feel like there's more to play off of what she's going through. And did you guys feel like her and Robert Duvall had a thing for each other?
Yes.
Almost,
It wasn't just like a.
But he was such a good guy that he's like, no, I'm not gonna go there. He was so devoted to his wife. I love that scene where he's like, by the way, I didn't tell you this, but I love her. After complaining about it for a while, he's like, this is why. This explains everything. I got
the vibe from them that maybe they had like a work party or they went out to the bar and had some drinks one night, and things may have tried to progress that far, but they kind of like stopped it. They're like, no, we can't do that.
She clearly.
Yeah, because they both come off as really good people.
There's feelings there for sure, but I don't know if they were ever acted on.
Yeah.
Or is it just like a harmless flirtation kind of thing?
No, I think that
it's like
her mannerisms, her facial expressions, like when she's on the phone with him, and she's talking to him face to
Yeah.
face. Like I mean, you know, you can tell like people's behavior when they're not telling you their feelings, they're wearing it. And she was wearing her feelings. Like, you know, she clearly could
Yeah, I
dismiss
think you're
the
right.
cocky son of a bitch that she's partnered up with. This woman and her
That guy's
eyes
so
and the way
annoying.
she smiles, you know, she wanted to rock Duvall's world, you know, in the most
But they were
what's the
both
word?
so adult.
In the most poetic manner. Yeah, the most kind-hearted manner. You know. But yeah, I think she clearly would have wanted to be in a relationship with him. You know, as much as he probably was thinking about it, like being with someone who has it together, cares about what he does, what he brings to life, and not is just someone who I think it's played up that his current wife used to be something. Like that she was so beautiful in her day. Now she's just a train wreck of a woman, like doped up on pills and shit.
Yeah, and that the loss of their daughter like messed with her head.
Just sent her off her rocker. And
but he's still like, I
young,
still love her. You know, it's not.
Yeah, which just brings his character makes his character that much more like. Even though you're like, but I don't want her to be with his wife. I want her to be with her. You know.
Yeah, but he's so likable because of that. You know.
Yeah. When he says "I love her" with that big smile on his face.
Yeah.
You're like,
oh, that makes sense why he puts up with it. But you're right. That might be why he told her that, because of what you said. I didn't think about that. Like, just so you know, I do love my wife, so we can't be a thing.
As much as Tyler wanted him to be.
Gee, good, but it can't. Yeah, as much as I was like, all right, well, if you won't, I will. I'll step in here.
I would I'll give it a 9 out of 10. The reason I don't give it a 10 out of 10 is, as much as I like the movie, it's something I really, really have to be in the mood for. It's not something that like I continuously come back to. It's something that I watch once every few years, kind of thing. It's good and it's crafted, but it's something I really have to be in the mood for. And it's like,
I think to watch the movie as a whole, there's certain scenes you can just look up on YouTube any day of the week and enjoy. But to watch the movie from beginning to end, you do have to be in the proper mood for it.
Because it's heavy. Even though it's got moments where it's light, like it does kind of weigh on you a little bit.
Yeah.
Because it is very, like I said before, that beginning part with him in the car and doing that, that's how this movie is. Like, it does kind of build up anxiety in you.
It's a powder keg.
Yeah. Yeah, that opening scene was almost like a, hey, this is what you're in for kind of thing. Yeah. This is how the whole movie's gonna go.
It's intense. It's funny at times, but not too funny, and it just it's got a lot going for it. It's a great movie. If you guys haven't watched it, please go check it out. Especially after we rant and raved about it for almost 2 hours. Almost 2 hours now. I'm looking at the counter. It says
as much as we went off topic, I feel like we really talked the hell out of the film. I don't feel like we dissected every single minute of it, but I'm like, you know what? We covered all the high spots, and we really, I think we had a really good discussion on it. I feel like we shortchanged.
I would recommend not going and looking up the clips first. Just go watch it as a whole.
Oh yeah. If you've never seen it, no, just buy it or stream it somewhere. Don't go on YouTube and just watch the convenience store scene or the gangs.
Currently,
you need to watch in the context of the whole film. Like, it means so much more when you watch the progression of snapping.
Yeah. So. And currently, it's not streaming anywhere. You would have to buy it to stream it.
Which people, come on, this is one of those movies I have.
Yeah, it was. I think it was
only blind buy.
Yeah, I think it was only $1.99 on Amazon to stream it on Amazon.
We're paying like $30 for when it came out on Blu-ray.
No.
Back when certain Blu-rays were so expensive.
John needs to find his DVD. He owned it, and when he wanted to put it on for me, he couldn't find it. And he's like, "Shit, I think I loaned it out to somebody, and somebody stole it because that good."
And you're like, "And I married this man."
Way to go, John.
But he's the one who bought it on streaming.
What a shitty way to start a marriage.
Okay.
Already losing things.
He's like, "Why did I marry you?" He's like, "Because I said yes."
Hey, you could see that now. they'll be at one of their jobs, and someone will be talking to Rebecca about him, and then it's like the whole scene over again, replicating this. It's like, oh, I just want to let you know, I love him.
Yeah.
And then he lost the man, and then he couldn't find it. And I love, that'd be great.
All right, I guess I haven't done this in a long time, so everybody bear with me, but we hope you enjoyed this. Make sure, if you're new to this, if this is like the newest thing that you've seen, you're like, what the fuck is this? So you went on YouTube, you typed Falling Down, and somehow you managed to find this. Go watch the other videos we have on the channel. Fans of Power, the podcast where we talk about Master Universe, She-Ra, and it's kind of everything. All that entire the live action movie. Tyler, help me out here. New Adventures.
Everything you could ever possibly imagine.
Tier lists on vehicles, arguing with each other, making fun of Joe. He's the mask guy, by the way. He'll pop up on this show eventually when we talk about
It's the greatest variety show of Master Universe on the internet. There is not a podcast that's qualified to meet the qualifications of confusion, anger, excitement. There's passion for everything. There's something for everybody. You like the old stuff, the new, well, maybe not the new stuff. The new stuff we're clearly not for you.
But the new stuff we do find a way to talk about and be constructive and say what we need to say. We're honest on all these shows.
Yeah.
One of us does.
We have fans, people who are fans of the new stuff and us, because we aren't disrespectful to the fans of the new stuff. Even if we're disrespectful to the new stuff, not the fans of the new stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, maybe I.
Yeah. Tyler's on his own a lot. On his own.
Yeah,
It's okay.
I'm not pretend that I'm like we're all hardy about it. Like, no, I think I've probably been offensive to the fans and the new shit, and you know what? I can sleep comfortably at night knowing I am.
Well, there we go. A little long-winded explanation of Fans of Power, but go watch those videos. And hey, if you guys watch us every week on Fans of Power, and you decided to click on this and check it out, give it a like and leave a comment down below if you guys have watched this movie and give your thoughts on it. And thank you guys, both of you, for sitting down and talking about this awesome movie. And I guess I'll bring back the Beyond Retro thing. I don't know if it was Beyond Retro or Capes and Commentaries that I did, but until then, we'll see you in the future to talk about the past.
Yeah, I think it was Beyond Retro, I think.
Beyond Retro.
Yeah.
See you next time.
Later.